Pensado's Place is brought to you by
We've got a new chieftain, but an old friend. A brand new ITL, Pensado's Pose stuff, Indaba. I can't take it. You're at the place, it's Pensado's Place.
Man, was that like a post-Oscar attempt at acting?
No, that's just me, man. How are you?
Oh Lord, we're all gonna die.
Absolutely.
Run for it.
Absolutely.
Man, you know, it was a great week. It was, you know what, Herb? Whenever I hear the music that Leo did for us and starts the show, it just puts me in a good mood.
That's
you know,
why I haven't turned it up
no matter
loud.
how little sleep I've had, no matter how many things I haven't completed yet.
We're back home.
It just seems like all of those things kind of fade away,
Yeah.
and we're hanging out with our buddies, a few million of them,
Yep.
hanging out with people I love and care about, like our guest today, and it just feels like all's right in the world when you hear that
Absolutely.
music. But
How was your week?
You know what? It was kind of like new plug-in week, and new gear week.
Yeah, kind of for me too.
Mog and BAE. BAE makes the best. Our buddy Marco there, he makes the best.
Yeah.
Power supply holders and things for the 500 series. They got together and sent me a new 11 module.
There's and in my world, we got some interesting inbound calls coming that hopefully we'll be able to work stuff out to be able to give things for our audience and stuff for you to use. It's been great.
It's been a fun week. I mean, you know, anytime you get new gear, it's like, that's heaven, man.
Absolutely,
It's just
absolutely.
the greatest thing in the world.
Shall we get to it?
I say let's do.
Let's do it. Hey guys, good to be back with you as usual. Of course, we're coming to you live from the Art Institute of California in our
Yes.
beautiful HD studio, which stands for
Urban Dave.
Urban Dave. There you go. To our social media stuff as usual, guys. Look below me, likes and comments. We got some great stuff from you guys this week. We're going to talk about it next week. Just some great comments, some back and forth. It's great to see it. Please keep it going. It elevates our show, which is your show, and we got a lot of stuff coming for you soon. So do
Plus,
that.
It could be argued now we have the best well-dressed audience in the world.
We do.
We'll get to that in a
Yes,
minute.
we will. Absolutely. To our friends, of course, Vintage King. Hey, VK.
Yeah.
How are you?
What's up?
Absolutely. Good stuff coming from them. We've got Jason Cropper in the chat room, and you have for him what?
Well, Jason, if I get a mix and it's at 44.1, do I get any advantages by upsampling it to 48 or 96K? When I do it, I think I hear it sound better, so I'm guessing it must be the internal mathematics of the plugins, the algorithms must get bumped up or something. But anyway, that's the question. Is there any advantage to bumping up a slower rate, lower rate sampled session to a higher rate?
So, per your request.
The answer's going to be shorter than my question.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yes.
Which is normal it's par for the course. So to answer it, you guys requested a lot. So the Vintage King Stump the Guy question, you now are going to be able to get the answers in the description of the video right underneath us. It'll be sitting there, or go to our website.
That's kind of cool.
pensadosplace.tv to make sure we're going to make sure you get those answers. So we heard you and we answered. It was good looking out from you guys. Then we also have the Pensado's Place special deal for Pensado's Place viewers. 25% off Vintage King brand cables for all your online orders. If they're in the US, you'll also receive free shipping. Great quality, not cheap stuff. They come with a lifetime warranty.
They are good.
Now, you know, it's not always that sexy to spend money on cables, but here's the other side of that. You got
Depends on
bad
what-
cables, you got problems.
Also, it depends on what you're wearing. When you buy the cables, it could be sexy.
So they also have microphone and instrument cables, as well as, you know, DB25 snakes and so on and so forth. So make sure you do that. Go to vintageking.com/Pensado deals. The promo code is Pensado Deal 1. So all that information is below me. Make sure you do that. Right?
I hope our audience appreciates the amount of effort you go through to get them all these deals and stuff.
It is a pleasure to do it. Will assists me in this, and we actually do it together.
Because I take advantage of them myself.
Our sponsors love it. And, you know, listen, I cut myself mixing. So I have to...
It's a full contact sport.
No doubt about it.
People don't realize that.
Left hook.
I tried to get you to use the little rubber faders, but no, you wanted to go straight for the metal
I
ones.
went steel. So anyways, moving forward, to our buddies at Avid, boy, I got to tell you, the Pensado's Pose stuff is killing Dave and I. It's
ridiculous.
It is absolutely. You guys are so creative. It's so wonderful. We got a ton of stuff for you. So let's show some of our runner-up pictures that are there, which are really incredible. Those will roll right now. That's part of your creativity going by right
nice.
now. You're doing it yourself. It's just great stuff. You guys are inventive and creative. I love that one. Guys on a motorcycle facing both ways. I got to tell you,
that's nice.
and we encourage you to keep doing it. It's just fantastic. That one, I literally cackled out loud screaming at my house last night at the meteorite. So cool. Everybody's finding ways to do that stuff, knowing that there's an opportunity to win. So now we're going to show you some of our Pro Tools 10 winners. Yay! They are Andreas Chipster, congratulations. Give Andreas.
Oh, look at that.
Very good. That's me and Dave, with soccer playing mics with our t-shirts on. David Kissiel, I think is how you pronounce his name. Look at him, he's doing his thing. Look at those faces on his t-shirts. I think I know those guys.
I look better than
And
you.
last one is Dennis G. Ducos, who put.
Look at that.
Isn't that very cool?
What does it say between them? I can't read it.
I'm not sure, but you have access to.
I read it, but I forgot.
Yeah, so we'll get that. Congratulations to you guys. You get Pro Tools 10. We're going to get that stuff out to you soon, but we're not done. We've got inbox winners. Let's show those guys. First one up, Matthew Hagberg. Superheroes, you and I, because of the stuff that we bring to them. Really incredible. And last but not least, this one blew me away. Romney, I think it's Clement. Listen to this.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. The barefoot king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Oh, that's so cute.
How cool is that in our t-shirt? So those are our inbox winners. The others are Pro Tools 10 winners. What a great promotion. You know, stay creative. I think I'm going to find some other prizes for you guys. Keep sending them in. We like that. Everybody likes it. Your comments have been great. Last but not least, Indaba, you know, this mix contest we've been doing, the contest is closed. You can still vote, however, so do that. Support each other by voting. We're going to announce that winner March 15th. Thanks to Indaba, the community gets so involved in these mix contests and so on and so forth.
Yeah, this one is surpassed.
And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. It really has. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. And Dave will do, you know, Dave's involved in selecting, but we're going to try to formalize maybe a relationship or so that we can do this on a broader scale for you. So that's all of our homework. Let's get to the good stuff. Dave, why don't you introduce ITL and let's rock this.
This ITL is short and sweet. I always ask you to take the concept and apply it to a lot of different uses now. I'm a big fan of taking a pure tone and adding it into a mix. I'm showing you how to increase the length of a note on a vocal with this, but you can do it like create feedback for a guitar, any number of things. And it's not a contest, but I'd love to hear some of your ideas and ways you use this. So if you'll run that, Will. There's been some talk around the internet that I'm just bat crap crazy. So today, our ITL is designed to prove that all those people that said that are 100% correct. We'll leave no doubt after today's Into the Lair. I guarantee it. I don't know why, guys. Sometimes you just wake up and you just got an idea, and it's great when millions of people like it, and when nobody likes it, you just got to save it and use it for another time. I started experimenting, adding tones and sine waves, square waves, just any tone from a signal generator back into my mix. Obviously, you can do that with an 808. You can add a little bit of a 20-30 cycle tone to your kick drum. You can put it in tune. And by the way, just go to the website and type in frequency and notes. You'll get a chart that looks something like this. And in this case, I think I wanted a G note, so I think I selected 392. Let's see, so here's my signal generator. And yeah, 392. Now, what the signal generator is doing, I've got it automated. But what it's doing, if I take the automation off, that's all it's doing. It's just sitting there doing that all day long. Now I've got it automated so it sweeps up at the end of this note right here. Let's listen to the note without the signal generator.
To convince myself that you were not insane.
Okay, now let's add the signal generator and see if we can lengthen that note and make it a little more interesting.
To convince myself that you were not insane. Traveled in
I don't know, that just makes me happy. Now, why would you do that? Well, in the mix, it just sounds kind of neat. You just hear it like, you can see I tapered it out before the next note. So check this out. I don't know. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Like we can make it go forever. So let's make it go longer and see what happens.
that you were not insane. Traveled in circles on.
Okay, let's listen to that in the mix. That might not be bad, huh? Now, if you'll notice, I just took the same effects that were on the lead vocal and put them on this guy here. Now, what I used to do a long time ago, and I did it sometime, I did it on a song recently. Like, say you've got a guitar, and the guy's holding out a note. It can be a chord, but works better with a note. Just figure out what the note is, type that number into the signal generator, and as the note fades out, bring your sine wave up or your square wave, and think of it as feedback. So as it's feeding back, add some a guitar distortion to it, add a little more reverb, and then taper that back out, and you can create your own really nice feedback note from any guitar note or a synth part or whatever. And don't be afraid to experiment with this concept. It's slightly unusable, but when it does work, it's really a lot of fun. Okay, when you do get something you like, just throw it up on the students page, the Pensado students page, and let's share that with everybody and see who can kind of come up with something cool. Okay, all right.
This is like Old Home Week. We've got a returning champ. Back in our early days, he graced our stage, and you guys really enjoyed him. We're here to...
I wouldn't be here without this man.
No doubt about it. A lot of people wouldn't. And we are happy to welcome. He'll tell you about his new gig. We are just thrilled for him. Welcome back, old friend, our buddy, Ron Fair. Hey, bud. Good to see you. Thank you, Dave. Exactly. Dave practices that with me. Man, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Been a minute.
Yeah.
It's been over a year, right?
Yeah, I think
Since
so.
being on the show.
I'm not good with time.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer.
So you're got a brand new place where you can go bring back the good stuff of the business and keep moving it forward. Tell us a little bit about the new gig. And
I was just appointed to become Chief Creative Officer and Executive Vice President of Virgin Records, so it makes me both an Indian and a policeman, because I get to be a chief and an officer. I have two different hats I can wear.
That makes you a one-man village people, kind
of. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. And especially with dance music being so popular.
yeah.
Basically, Virgin Records is part of what's now called the Capitol Music Group. Universal Music purchased EMI Corporation, massive billion-dollar purchase. And the labels operating in the Capitol Music Group are Capitol Records, Virgin Records, Astralworks, Harvest, Blue Note, and a Christian music group and a country label called Capitol Nashville. So this group stands as its own, label, entity, like corporation, mini corporation of entities inside of Universal, and it stands as a freestanding competitor to Interscope, Geffen A&M, Island Def Jam, which is the other side of it. So Steve Barnett was brought over from Sony Music, where he was co-chairman of Columbia, to run the Capitol Music Group. I had a budding relationship with him, and he, thought it'd be a good fit for me, and he offered me this gig to run Virgin Records.
That's fantastic.
Which hasn't really been operated in the United States in a long, long time.
That's absolutely right.
Don't forget, EMI was purchased when it was a record label. Then it was purchased by Terra Firma, which was an investment firm, and then it ended up going into receivership and became owned by the bank. First major record company to be run by a bank. But this new situation is really well funded. They're remodeling the Capitol Tower, which is an incredible place for headquarters to be. And Virgin, and Virgin Records will be a staff of about 12 to 14 people, and we're on our path now to acquire new artists and new sounds and new directions, as well as have a very vital partnership with Virgin UK, who are the company that signed Emily Sandé, and they're in a much different trajectory because Virgin UK has been operating all this time. Richard Branson is no longer involved. He'd sold the company some time ago. And basically, it's a major label name, Virgin, with a connotation of great importance, but it's basically an empty sand lot that we look at with the goal every day to build a skyscraper.
But you know what? Could not be more perfectly suited for a guy like you. Well, and I say that not to fawn over Ron, but Virgin in its early days had this great sort of nature about artists and artistry and artist development, and then times change, and you need a real record person to do that. And there's a difference, which we won't get bogged down in, between guys who have those chops and understand moving forward, and guys that are kind of the newer guys. Ron's going to do great with that.
What's interesting when you talk about newer guys, what's interesting to me about it is I look at the landscape of my competitors, guys running labels, and a lot of them now are a lot younger than me. And they're a lot closer to the consumer's age of the records that they buy. And I've somehow stuck around all this time, almost 35 years. The interesting thing is that whether I like it or not, I have become dada. I have 4 little children of my own. The oldest is 6. I'm dada all day long to them. But in the industry now, and in what I do in record making and in A&Ring, I'm like musical dad, and I'm also a bit of a music professor, and I'm really digging it. I embrace it. I'm completely comfortable with it, and I'm loving being a little bit older and wiser and being able to, to impart wisdom and help artists move from point A to point B without offending their sensibility.
And perfectly suited for it. One of the things we just got through with the Grammys, and one of the things that I love, and particularly when guys like you are in positions that you're in, and you take some of what's gone on in AAA and Lumineers and Mumford Sons, that singer-songwriter craftsmanship thing still works. The player thing still works. Then you morph it in with what's going on in dance and what's going on. So the guys who have the broader kind of point of view have a chance to work in here and do things.
I was listening to satellite radio on the way in, and there's I think 4 or 5 hits that have stomp drums, mandolins, cellos, string bass, banjo. It's like folk music is all over top 40.
EVP Brothers, Lumineer. Rachel.
Imagine Dragons has that sound.
Imagine Dragons,
What's great about music right now, this is, as opposed to maybe the last few years, and I know that our show here is really centered on record production and engineering, but we're talking about what happens to these records that we make, is that it feels like, especially like watching the Grammys, like it actually feels like the lights came back on in the record industry in the last sort of metaphorical minute, that the pain that we all went through and the contraction when the downloading revolution hit, and our lack of preparation for what Napster started and the tidal wave of change, it feels like we're kind of through that as a world marketplace, and we're not hung up now on, oh my God, nobody's buying CDs anymore. We don't care. We've moved through that. And what's happened is a completely vibrant palette of legitimate musical taste that's all activated at the same time, whether it's Justin Bieber on one corner, or One Direction, or or Lumineers, or Mumford & Sons, or Tiesto, or
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran, who's existing side by side, doing kind of modern James Taylor in the same space as One Direction. It's
amazing to me.
It's just the lights came back on. For the aspirant kid in his bedroom making a record, or the next Bob Marley who hopefully is somewhere watching this show, who just looking to be heard, or the next Bono, or the next Sinatra, or the next Barbra Streisand, or the next LMFAO, whatever it is, this is a very, very healthy and exciting time with a much more level playing field than we ever had.
Ever.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because it feels to me like lack of recognition of that fact also contributed a bit to the shrinking and contraction of the music industry. In terms of where you're taking Virgin, what's going to be different about your approach this time? Because you used to be CEO and used to run Geffen A&M. Like, for example, are you going to are the amount of YouTube views more important now than ever before, or how are you taking?
You know, a lot of people ask that, and there's a simplistic view of that. I just think that to really put it on the real level with you, because we are friends and we've been through many wars together and fought for a lot of arcane concepts. The difference in taking this job now at this stage in my life is to be able to sign artists and make records and perform this task with no fear. I have no fear of loss.
And you've never had any fear.
So, no, but to know, you know, like, I have no fear of loss of, oh, I'm going to lose my ass, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my ranking, I really don't care anymore. Yeah. So I look at this as a great opportunity that I'm very grateful for, to really, in my own, you know, we all have our own monkey on our back about ambition. We're all ambitious. We all desire to do more in our lives. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for me, it's always about the next thing. I don't care about the past. And this feels like the moment when, if I have any chance of getting into the Hall of Fame, in my own mind, this is it. This is the moment. Mm-hmm. So I'm able to move forward and not look over my shoulder or worry about what's behind me.
You're liberated.
Yeah.
Where do you see this in 3 years and 5 years? Have you got? Is there clarity that far out, or does a lot of this have to be manufactured from scratch?
The artist roster is, you know, very slim. We're lucky enough to have 30 Seconds to Mars, this incredible international rock group with amazing frontman Jared, who's a visionary, and then we have Corinne Bailey Rae, whose record is coming at some point, and a couple of new things, and Alison Sudol from A Fine Frenzy. There's a few acts on the roster that we're looking at and trying to figure out. You know, not all the little birdies in the nest are equal. Yeah. This is another true aspect of what we do in the record industry. Not everything is equal. Like, no matter how much we may want an artist to be the one, and we try with all of our heart and soul and money and resources to make it the one, there's always somebody over here going, I'm the hit. Mm-hmm. You guys aren't paying any attention. That's right. So, you know, it's the brief is very simple. 3 words: make it rain. And that could be anything from make it rain like Adele, make it rain like Swedish House Mafia, make it rain like Robert Glasper, make it rain. There's so many different pots, and there's a lid for every pot. So that's the brief.
If this is a question that can't be answered, but let me know. But in terms of revenue, what's changing about that? I mean, there's a lot of artists complaining that they're not making money off Spotify or Mog, and they probably don't understand how those entities work when they say that. But is the revenue pot going to still be?
I think that when I look at it, you know, I was just reading this incredible biography by Tommy Mottola, which I think everybody who watches Pensado's play should get this book. No doubt about it. Okay, Hitmaker it's called. Tommy Mottola, one of the industry's, true kings. Mm-hmm. And back in those days when they were selling, Harry Connick and Celine Dion and Michael Jackson and Pearl Jam and Rage Against the Machine and Mariah Carey, those days are gone. So basically what I'm saying is that in today's record business, we all took a haircut. Mm-hmm. Everybody took the haircut. The artist, the promoter, the venue. There's a couple exceptions. Taylor Swift didn't take the haircut. Right. She's at One Direction, didn't take the haircut. Adele didn't take the haircut. In other words, their success is so great and so disproportionate to reality that they're the very, very chosen few. But you can't run a business where you expect to have Adele-type results on every act. Right. They're not all created equal. And so basically, we're all making less money than we did in the boom, boom years. So what? The lights are back on.
Is the digital space supplying a little bit of what went away? Is it coming back via the digital space?
I think that whenever you look at terms of replacing the past with the future model, you're off base. It's a different day. It's a different metric. we deal with, so when you're asking me, is digital income going to replace analog income? I can't even think of it in those terms. It's to take all revenue streams, all sources of income, all aspects of an artist's career and monetize it. And you guys know that better than anybody.
The paradigm shift is real. There's a shift. So I tell people, if you look and review all the time, you never can move forward. You got to look forward and then go forward.
But having said that, though, when you read the article that just came out that Ford has just made a deal with Spotify, or if you've test driven the new Tesla, and which is a crazy car, all your engineering freaks out there have got to test drive this car. This Tesla thing is a car from the future. So I got a little test drive with my buddy Darren Chris, and we're driving around, and he says, Christina Aguilera in the car. Her face pops up, the image from the first album. There's like a giant plasma in the middle of the thing. Every Christina Aguilera record ever made pops up. You don't even press a button. You just say the name of the song you want, and it's there.
And George Jetson was in the back seat.
Yeah, but it's the most. So we have Spotify and Fords. We have the Tesla with this kind of interactivity with. It is the greatest time ever to be a music fan, to be a music creator. The technology, this goes back to the sexy relationship that existed with music and technology that started with Thomas Edison. Music is the perfect sex partner for technology, and always has been.
Guys, heed that. You got to pay attention to that. That's really critical. That puts you on the forefront of the opportunities moving forward. So don't stay in your box. Think outside your box.
Well, I read somewhere where you said that, and I literally thought about that sentence for days, and I still haven't quite figured out all the ramifications.
But get a wax,
of that.
get a wax, or any chance you ever have to see an Edison wax cylinder working, even before wire recording, before there was an open reel for the wax cylinder, the very first record, not when it was flat, when it was on a cylinder, and you look at this shit and you go like, well, this is exactly what we're doing. It's the thrill of the playback, of being able to regenerate the sound that was just made and play it multiple times. At its very, very essence, that's exactly why we're all still here. That thing is such a thrill, and it's part of human nature. And that's why we have this industry, because it's still, no matter what, it's a crazy thrill.
Ron, I'm gonna get a little bit away from all that kind of stuff. There's just so many questions I've always wanted to ask you, and we're together all the time, and I never get to ask all these questions. But one of the things that I've noticed about you that I wish I had is when we're working on a mix together, you instantly know when it's done. I never know when a mix is done. What is the thought process behind knowing when something is done? Is it a gut reaction? Is it experience? Because I'm like Michelangelo. If the Pope was still alive, I'd still be painting the Sistine Chapel.
It's funny because I start the process is I have to start with the basic realization that my ability to hear my own record in layers and in relation, like how the deep background and the foreground and everything relates to each other. It's almost prismatic. Holding it up, looking at it from this angle, from this angle, from this angle, inside, back. It's architectural and it's prismatic. So when I get to the point where the transitions from section to section feel right to me, when the power of the song is coming through, when the musical balances are in the place where I believe they are, where they belong, at that point, usually I have passed the audience 12 off-ramps ago. It's because my ear is so critical and so tuned into the DNA of my own record that I left the audience 12 off-ramps ago. So now I know if I'm satisfied, I satisfied my customer 12 off-ramps before.
Mm-hmm. Just so audience might know, about 10 off-ramps ago, I get a list this long of changes that are classic. I don't mean
and then you break out into a cold sweat and call me and go, Ron's coming by, I can't talk to you.
I don't mean to digress or get you off topic, but I just want our audience to know, Ron never ever says, give me 3 dB of this. Ron will say, the snare needs more snap, crackle, pop. That means that my snare needs a little more top in, it needs to cut through a little more.
But you know what it means, Dave, is the mixing thing, there's a covenant that exists between the mixer and the record. Like you're the mixer, you have the religious relationship to the balances and to what's coming out through the speakers. So for me to say to a mixer who I respect, who you're also a chef, you're putting Parmesan and ketchup and salt and pepper and you're mixing all this stuff and it's your shit basically because you're the mixer. For me to penetrate that covenant and say, add more 2.5K on the hi-hat on the left side, that's bullshit because it's not my mix, it's my record. So
I want a T-shirt with that on
but
it.
no, but
It's my record.
so my policy when I'm working with you or Jack Joseph Puig or Chris Lord Alge or Peter Moken or whatever, it's like your problem. I want it to hit me a certain way, but we all know that if you add a frequency or an ambience or a reverb or an aspect to one sound, 30 other sounds are affected. So it's never in a vacuum because everything affects everything. You turn the snare, some more snap, crackle, pop on the snare, suddenly you can't hear the point of the kick drum. Suddenly you can't hear the vocal. Suddenly you can't hear the guitar pick. And then everything changes. So that process of just giving general notes that I try to make people laugh with,
Yeah, they're great.
then it's up to you to interpret what does he really
We'll put a couple
mean.
of those in the book.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Well, like, what does he really mean, you know? And or if I say something like make the bass more functional, well, what does that mean? That means that I want the bass to have its harmonic function in relation to what it's throwing off to the pitches of all the other instruments to have be more in the game.
You know what my all-time favorite is, right?
No.
Pimp Out the Vocal.
Pimp out the vocal. Well, think of the pimp and his client. She's walking down the boulevard and she's not attracting any customers. So she got to wear her shirt a little lower and her skirt a little higher and her heels a little bigger in order to attract attention.
But what's amazing is he mentioned Peter and Chris and JJP, and we all know what that meant. That's what's amazing.
Yeah, no.
Not that we're special.
Because we're all
it's just-
pimps. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, it's just
It's just interesting for me to hear you two guys talking about pimp rules.
But it's also what we're selling. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've got a gift for. We were talking earlier. Some of the great artists, and we've delineated those in the past that you've discovered, but you've also got a great knack for picking great songs. Is that process changed? Like are melodies different? I'm not a songwriter. Are the same melody that you liked about "Beautiful" for Christina, or "Be Without You" for Mary, could that same melody work in today's climate, or do
Melodies, I think melody and taste for melody is also contextual of the times. I think that if you were to
So
take,
it does change.
Well, I think so. I think that if you're living in Cole Porter's day and the melody goes da 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 da, those kind of harmonic relationships were part of the taste of the music of the time. And now we have Party Rockers in the House Tonight, which is a massive hit and it connects with so many people. So I think that melodic taste, just like taste in fashion, taste in food, anything that involves taste is something that is a flow through different societies and different times.
What struck me then is the older one had an eighth note feel and the new one had a quarter note feel. Or do we like slower melodies now because of the pace of society?
No, I don't think it's related to a tempo or anything. I just think that just like the length of a hem or the bell bottoms or the fros, or it's just part of trend. And I think
Shades
that,
of cars,
and it's contextual. A record like Lumineers comes out, and then four bands in Vegas and Indiana go like, well, if that shit's making it, my shit could do it too. And then they put the mandolin and it's contextual. So it's how things relate to other things and what becomes popular. Now there's every other day I get another girl who is in the Adele space.
Yeah.
Who is looking to get a record contract.
Yeah.
But Adele she's an original. She's an incredible once in a lifetime thing. Like Bono was a thing, or Bob Marley was a thing,
Prince,
or Prince, or Sinatra, or Michael Jackson. History brings these people almost like channeling some kind of God, type force in the way they express their music.
One of the axioms that we all, because of the age we are, we get asked these questions, and we all kind of musical daddies in certain areas. And I tell people all the time that it's a great honor that somebody says to you, you can be an arbiter and a gatekeeper of pop culture. And I take that seriously because not everybody gets that opportunity. But in order to be that, you got to be aware of what's going on and how it shifts and constantly. So I'm always taken by guys like our age who make those shifts. You constantly have to change and readdress and stay aware and look at the currents. You can't stay pat. So I think in terms of melody, it's part of that change. And part of what's so exciting is that the change it infuses me. It's like, okay, what's next? Where are we going? And I want to get ahead of that, and let's figure it out. And that gleam that I see in eyes like yours and eyes like mine and yours and so forth is part of what keeps you ahead. But it's also instructive for guys coming up. Like, you can't get rooted. You got to look forward.
The producing thing, there's so many levels to it because some of it's musical arrangement, and but basically, when I look at what it is, I believe my responsibility is to an artist when I sign them, is to take what they're doing and help them make it the best it can be.
Yep.
Now that's very subjective, because who is to say what's best and what's not best?
That's right.
But that's my goal. My goal isn't to redo their thing or put my stamp on it. My goal is to see the world through their musical eyes and go, oh, that's the viewpoint, but it could have more impact if we did this, this, and this, and then I have to get their blessing and explain it and do that and go on that journey together.
Yep.
And make sure that more impact is even right.
Yep.
Okay, this has nothing to do with anything. How old were you when you mixed that Slayer record? You recorded and mixed one of the great Slayer records. How old were you then?
This was a wonderful time in my life when I was in my love affair with heavy metal, and I was working a lot with Brian Slagle, who had a record company called Metal Blade. And I worked on Lizzie Borden and Omen and Armored Saint.
You signed Armored Saint.
Yeah, and was around for Wasp and Yngwie Malmsteen and Keel. And this whole LA scene,
Incredible.
this whole LA scene of metal, and it was, I was enamored with it because we were in the days of spandex, and girls looked really good.
But you went from
in
Conti
tight
to
spandex.
You went from Conti to metal.
Yeah.
I mean, you won a Grammy for the first Rocky movie theme song.
Yeah, but no, Slayer was one of these things where there was a job where Brian Slagle called me up and he said, look, we got to mix this album. This band Slayer's on the label. We have one night of time at the old Track Record.
Wow.
Can you mix the album like an overnight start at 6 o'clock? We got to be out by
10 songs in a night?
And it was in the days when you mixed them and you leadered the tape, was mixed to quarter-inch, 15 IPS quarter-inch tape. And frankly, I had no idea what I was doing, and I was the guy who knew more than anybody else that Brian Slagle knew. And I don't really remember much about that night. I remember Tom and Aya, and I remember that we pulled it off, and now I listen to the record, and it's certainly not a great record because of the mixed sound. It was because the group was at the forefront of a movement of death metal, and of basically what their message was to defy authority, to hold the middle finger up to the world with their music, with the sound of the guitars, with the way they played, with the songs they wrote, with the vocal approach. It was basically to rebel and to get back, and it was it was a really fun thing to be part of. That's why I like the metal so much.
Wow, that's so cool. So on the other side of the spectrum,
To answer your question though, how old was I? I'm gonna say I was probably 30 years old.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. And I've always, another thing, I know it sounds like I'm skipping around in my brain, I'm not. Of course, my brain's been tweaked, so who knows, but another thing that just fascinates me about your skill set, which is unlike anybody else in the business, period, in the conversation. When you do string arrangements, that just boggles my mind that you had no formal training in that, but you sit down and you write out the charts, you conduct the orchestra, and you come up with these. I think you're the best contemporary string arranger going right now. No, because your strings they just fit the song. They're musical. They're not advertisements for your next job. They're just perfect for the song. When you hear the song, what goes through your head that makes you think of those parts?
This is actually, I've done one which I think it's my favorite one I've done in a long, long time, and it's for a record by the artist Zed, and the song is called Clarity, and there's a version of it that you can see on YouTube that was performed on David Letterman, and I love it. I love the song. I wish I had it. I think it's a #1 record, but the way I do the string arrangements is actually part of the discipline of multi-track recording that all of us have. Because when I'm writing the arrangement, the only way I do it is when I have a multi-track file, and I can solo the bass, and I can solo the guitar, and I can solo the piano, and I can solo the vocals, and I can really understand the harmonic relationships that are taking place from section to section. And because I got to hit the transitions, you got to hit bar 4, you got to hit bar 8, you got to be very careful with the voice leading, like where things are going. So I'm never just like writing a composition that's going to sit on top of something. It sits inside it, not on top of it.
Boy, that's the truth.
And then basically I'll just play the verse or play the chorus or whatever, and I'll sit there and I have one crappy sound that I use to write with, and I'll just improvise and I'll say, well, what do I hear? Does it need pad? Does it need rhythm? Does it need a hook? What, you know what? And it's basically at that point it's the muse. Whatever strikes me is whatever strikes me, and then I write it from inside, and I want to make sure that I'm not stepping on other things. So in a case like Vanessa Carlton, 1,000 Miles, when the strings go da 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 da, I was listening to the record, and there was a wah-wah guitar part on the demo that was going waka-cha-waka-cha-wah, waka-cha-waka-cha-wah, and I thought, you know, this would be more effective, this lick, if I had the 32 strings doing that and not have it on wah-wah guitar, because guitar was irrelevant to me in that context, but I nicked it from the wah-wah, and that was the inspiration for the part.
Wow. Did JJP mix
Yeah.
that? That's one of my favorite mixes of his. What a great song. You mentioned voice leading. I think a lot of people nowadays don't really understand that, but I think that has so much application in producing nowadays, much above and beyond strings. If you don't understand that, it's kind of hard to get to the next, from point A to point B with any concept. But in terms of the string thing, do you hear, like if a cat's sitting at home with one synthesizer, he can actually kind of do what you do, wouldn't you say? Not with a real orchestra, but he could actually apply the same principles and concepts to creating a part for the strings.
Sure.
And so the technique is the technique. Now, do you write all the notes out yourself, or is it transcribed?
No, the notation. I don't use any of the programs that they have, Sibelius or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't use them. It's another language. For me to learn that language of how to convert an English typewriter into quarter notes, rests, slurs, dynamics, like I don't really care. I don't have time in my life to learn another language. It took me long enough to learn Pro Tools. So, but I could just pick up my pencil and just write it. So the notation is something that I learned over time with practice, how to get what's in my head on paper so that when it's put in front of a musician, almost at sight, they can play my intention perfectly. And to keep it simplistic and clean enough so that there's not a lot of lost in translation things. So the interesting part about that, and where I'm a freak, like there's two big freaks in music, Harpo Marx, who never had any formal training, was the world's greatest harp player, and me, who I can write completely fluently for the orchestra, but I cannot read. If you put the same music that I just wrote in front of me, I cannot read it. I can only write it. And I've had music professors tell me, we don't know what to do with you, you're just a freak, don't worry about it.
Wow.
Because I can't read, but I can write.
Amazing. That's amazing.
So I'm half fluent.
That makes you.
It's a drag.
That makes you honorary Southern.
You got a few more of them, because just want our crew to know to prepare for Four Corner Office. There's not going to be a batter's box. Keep asking.
Yeah, no, I got a million of them. We were working on the Christmas album for Christina, and I want our audience to know that you're probably, you're not. I think on the last time you said you don't get swayed by a kick drum sound on the last show. One of the things I love about you is, among many, is you don't have to have a song written by the guy that wrote the last 5 hits. Christina's first record you made with pretty much at that time unknown people, because you have the ability to just find great records. You're not influenced by the person that wrote them. And to prove that, a little living in the past anecdote, you dug a cassette out of a bucket and had no idea who wrote it. Turns out one of our buddies wrote it. Yeah. Remember, you had to like search for that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the process of picking songs for artists that you have, what is the criterion that you use? Do you choose a good song like you would choose your next car?
Basically, there's who wrote the song is of interest, but I don't care. It's like, because somebody famous or somebody successful wrote it, it's interesting. I might pause, but it's like the guy who won the Oscar for writing the adaptation for Silver Lining Playbook. He was a new guy. It's this may the best song win.
Absolutely.
It's wherever it comes from. Not, it doesn't have automatic put status because it's written by a proven hit maker. That's of interest to me, but a song written by a proven hit maker that isn't good doesn't have any value.
It's just a bad song.
It's just a song that,
That's not good.
I don't know if it's true, but I've heard it said that Clive Davis puts a heavy weight on the lyrics. I've been around you where you've rejected song after song after song when somebody came in to play them, and then I've seen you just hear a song, intro, verse, and chorus, and take it, and it was a hit. I've seen you do both of those things. Are you listening for the melody, or I mean, what is it that a person with your success rate at choosing a song for the world, what is it that gives you the ability to do that so successfully?
There's certain inexplicable, but there's certain inexplicable things that I don't know the answer to. One of them is like and you've been with many parties through our lives, Dave, where somebody wants to sing At Last, and I can play it perfectly in any key automatically, as long as I know it in my head. I can play standards by ear in any key, anyway. I don't know how I know how to do that. I just do it. Wow. I actually can't explain it. It's frankly, it's a gift from God. Something like hearing a song and somehow believing and knowing and wishing it to be a big hit record that moves the needle. I don't know how I know it, but I do know it.
So I'll tell you now, there's been a couple of songs that you gave me that ended up being #1 records, and the first 3 or 4 times I heard them, I was like, this is good, but why is Ron? And then you hear it like about 3rd or 4th time, and I feel it, and then of course when you have your input, we take it home together. But you seem to know instantly, like when you heard Love, Keisha Cole. I mean, you basically made your mind up by the time the chorus came around. Just it's
the thing is the horse underneath me is always changing too. It's like, when we were exposed to Keisha, she was the truth, and she was an incredible new voice and an amazing artist. And it was random that I was the guy who happened to be there, but I was able to recognize it and say, I want to work with this. Fergie, completely unrelated. I signed her when she was 17 years old. And you know what? I can't. There's certain inexplicable things about, like, why are you such a great mixer? It's just in you. When you give Dave Pensado 98 signals of information, it comes out a beautiful certain way because you have a gift.
For me, it's arrogance.
Nah.
I just think I'm so good. They gotta like it, which doesn't always happen, of course.
Hey,
you know what? Creativity is such a fleeting little thing that you just can't describe it. But I'm guessing that if we left the audience with a thing to tie this little segment together, it would be that creativity doesn't come from. Well, let's say you grew up in the wilderness by yourself. You'd not be as creative as a person that had your background growing up in Los Angeles, having grandparents that were like legends in is it called Yiddish theater?
Yeah, in their area, yeah.
In that area, you've had background that has all contributed to your taste, which contributes to your decisions. My background is very unique, so I guess what we should tell our audience, Herb and Ron, is go out and gather experiences that affect your taste.
It's funny you should say this.
Go to museums, go to concerts, go to.
I'm interviewing people right now for young A&R positions. And I asked somebody, there's a young woman I'm talking to right now, and I'm looking for like a special gal that who will allow me to mold their brain a little bit. And one of the questions I asked said, how do you feel about history? Wow. And she didn't understand the question. And I had to explain it to her. Younger people today, history isn't I mean, I don't want to generalize, but history, I'll just phrase it this way, there's nothing more important to me than history. History of music, history of I love history. And especially when it comes to pop music. You go back to the 40s canon, the 50s canon, the Sinatra, the 60s, psychedelic era, bubblegum pop, whatever it is. The history of music is, all of the lessons are all there. They're all there in Shakespeare. So it's like when you're looking for direction and you're looking for answers and you're looking to like, how do we move the ball forward in today's task? History is this wonderful thing that we have to draw from. But she didn't understand what I meant when I asked her the question. Wow. And I'm not sure she understood it after I explained it.
One more thing, Herb. Is this an accurate statement, both you guys? If you show me a happy, bubbly, fun-loving, gregarious guy, I'll show you a guy that's not very creative. Creativity seems to come from I don't know, kind of, it seems like when everything's going right in your life and when things are smooth, you're not as creative as when you have a little conflict in your life, a few road bumps. If you got $3 million in the bank, it's a little hard to sing the blues.
Well, they say that about athletes, that when athletes get their big paycheck, that they lose the fire. I don't know that there's any generalization for it. I mean, I personally don't want to go out like Vincent van Gogh. Right. I have 4 children depending on me, so I'm a little tired of suffering. I'd like to eliminate
Maybe
some of that.
Maybe that's something that you have to do early in your career or something. Because we all suffered early in our careers.
I think it's really individual. I had dinner the other night with a well-known comic, and we were talking about the pain that comedy comes from, and Cedric said he's never utilized pain. And it's just, he comes from a place where his energy is different. And I think it's individualized, just like creativity can't be put into a box. That said, so we don't run out of time, let's go to the intrepid Will Thompson, our producer, who's over in our corner office. William, hello.
Hello, hello.
You got some questions for our wonderful guest, Ron?
Sure do.
Fire away.
Let's see here. This one comes from the chat room at Justin TV, and this is from More Bass, Please. Question for Ron. Given that digital sales and general revenue is starting to increase in the industry, do you feel that labels are having more wiggle room into actually developing artists again?
I just see the space for signing artists right now is so competitive. To confuse the issue, we have the metrics of YouTube and the social media to confuse executives who think that 2 million views constitutes a artistic validation.
My pet peeve.
It's very aggressive. It's very competitive. There's, like I said before, I believe the lights came back on in the music industry, and it's more of a level playing field than ever for new talent.
Another one, William.
This one comes from Facebook from Dave Evangelista. Hi, Ron. What do you think will make an artist make or break besides obviously great songs? In other words, where do you see the focus to be for artists' careers in terms of their development and getting known, not just for getting known, if not for the traditional record label system?
I'm going to answer with a somewhat vague riddle on that. They're not all equal. Like certain artists are more of a marketing concept where you're buying into a lifestyle or a look or a lyrical statement or a fashion statement. Other artists are there because of pure musical excellence and the heavens opened and poof, Bruno Mars. He's not a marketing concept, he's a real deal. Other artists who I won't mention because I don't want to seem insulting in any way are really about the marketing, about their connection with other brands, about buy this, get that, and but all of these forms are valid. They're all very different.
One more, William.
Okay, well, this one comes from someone named Ron Fair for President in the chat room.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So if you somehow found the fountain of youth and you were getting back into the industry from the bottom as either a mixer, producer, songwriter, where would you begin and where would you focus your efforts?
This is a very highly individualized topic that requires serious self-examination to begin with. There's no general answer. If you're talking about the young David Geffen, he was a mogul from the word go. He was put on earth as a mogul, as the cog of a wheel of many, many talents. If you're talking about George Martin, you're talking about an incredible story of musical skill and insight and humor and seizing the moment. Like this is an individual question where you have to look to yourself and say, who am I? Am I just a musician guy, creator, and I'd love to be in the mix? Or am I a mogul? Am I an attractor of talent? Am I an aggregator of other people's hopes and dreams? Like you have to really be very sanguine and look in the mirror and analyze who you are yourself, which I've done many times through my life and continue to do it, and came up with this year's model, which is I'm an architect of records, I am a professor, and I am dada. And those three things make me who I am today.
Guess what else you are? You are a returning champ to Pensado's
Thank
Place,
you.
man. And you know what? We're going to keep having you back
Thank
to
you,
tell
man.
us no, man. What you guys don't know is I get the pleasure of knowing what these two guys' relationship is, and it is so special amongst but they all have a bunch of relationships, but this one is special. It goes way past mixing records. It's gone on for a long time. Ron and Dave have never let it down, and it speaks to what you should do, which is step outside the box, know that it's about a collaborative journey, know it's about being individual, know it's about being fearless, and keep those people around you that help your, that are wind beneath your
Can I just say,
wings.
I know we're out of time and you can
Sure,
always
go
edit
ahead.
it, but I want to say that Pensado's Place really existed long before there was an internet.
That's right.
Because when Dave was stationed at Enterprise Studios, and you were like a little mogul. You had a lot. Producers would come to you, you know, songwriters would come to you, artists would come to you. That's how I knew Keisha, and that's how I met the Black Eyed Peas. I met Will.i.am because I played vibraphone on some record that you were working on, and incredible things happened as a result. So Dave always had a salon.
That's right.
It was like a southern kind of thing where you would go and sit on the veranda and have your mint julep.
That's right.
Of course, there was a console there.
Yeah.
And the best sounding control room of all time.
Yeah.
And everybody would just come and just hang out, and Dave would just talk.
Absolutely.
And we didn't realize at the time that it was Pensado's Place.
He just needed a brother to monetize it.
True.
We're here. Dave's, wrap it up. and
Cross
say
your
goodbye.
fingers. I might be back in Studio City.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a
I'll
whole
tell you
other
after the show. It might happen. Guys, I'm going to philosophize a minute. Ron just kind of gave me an open door to that. It says in the Bible, Old Testament, a man's gifts make room for him. The last question that Ron was answering is, it could be summed up with that sentence when he talked about Geffen, when he talked about George Martin. Your gifts make room for you. So Ron also talked about having to be somewhat very, very unbiased in interpreting where skill set was right now and how it fit into society. So delineate your gifts. Be honest with yourself. Rely on close friends. Don't ask your mom if you're good. Ask the people that you need to be hired by if you're any good. And the way they answer that question is they pay you. So I've taken a lot away from this show today. I'm a little bit inspired by the whole thing, and I've been around this man 22 years, and he's still inspirational. So watch this again. There's so many little deep nuances that just kind of went by fast, and all the rest of your questions will be answered. Thanks again, Ron.
Thank you, Dave.
And we'll see you guys next week.